KXFM brings you Full Album Fridays once a week, where we journey through an entire record from an artist's perspective, with them telling them about every song on the record. Today, I am really excited to be joined for the first time on this show, I believe, by They Might Be Giants, whose new record, Book, is out as of November 12th, and it indeed has a big old book that goes along with it. We're going to learn about that. We've got John Flansburgh and John Linnell from the band to talk to us about the record. How's it going, guys?
Hey, Tyler. Thanks for having me.
Oh, hey. Thank you very much. This is really, really cool. I mean, I don't think you guys have ever attempted something quite like this in your now multi-decade career. So why don't you start in the beginning here by telling us a little bit about the undertaking that is releasing this record book, which accompanies a 144-page cloth-bound hardcover that you collaborated on. Yeah,
it's an art book. This is John Flansburgh talking. I have to say, I don't think that this really could have come together if it wasn't for our collaboration, a kind of long-term collaboration with this amazing graphic designer named Paul Sayre, who was kind of the guy behind the visuals in the book, or I should say, he's the guy behind the typewritten illustrations in the book. He actually typed up every lyric on an IBM Selectric by hand. And then he also kind of brought in this street photographer named Brian Carlson, who's from Brooklyn. He's a Pratt guy like myself, and he is just a very talented photographer. And it is kind of a coffee table art book experience. It's not biographical, or it's not like it won't be like a fan favorite in the sense it's not a scrapbook kind of thing about the band. It's not that kind of thing. It's really just this trippy psychedelic art book.
But does it correspond with the songs on the record?
Yeah, this is the
lyrics of the all the songs on the new record and some previous records, I guess. Is it how many old lyrics have we got on there?
Well, it's got like the most recent stuff. It's like My Murdered Remains and I Like Fun and
right.
The new album, and then even some songs that from Pamphlet, which is the kind of like, what do you call it? The
leftovers.
Wet cleanup in aisle 5. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Which in our case is a nice thing. But it's the part of the artistic part of it is that the lyrics have been typeset by the guy who designed the book, Paul Sayre, and he created these amazing graphical kind of displays of the lyrics using this IBM Selectric. And so it looks very beautiful. I mean, we think it looks interesting to the extent that it's, I guess some people who are like picky about, getting the lyrics exactly down might be slightly confused by the typography, but I think it's every word is on the album is included. Not necessarily in the exact predictable order.
Well, and then do you want to talk before we go song by song here? Is there like a general theme or idea or a concept that the songs kind of as a whole cover? Or address?
I think that there probably is, but we're not really consciously clear about what it is. It's really just an expression of where we're at. Now this is like our latest collection of songs that have been selected for this project, but we generally don't do the theme thing for the albums that we do for adults. They are just our best work, our best recent work, I'd say.
I mean, it was, in looking back on things, it seems like the things that are thematic emerge as the album is sort of pulled together. I mean, I remember like when we were doing The Else, it seemed like we had done a couple of kids albums, and it was in the middle of the Bush administration, and which was at sort of the like peak bummer moment of the Bush administration, and it felt like we were just being as like kind of growly as we could possibly be. It was like a very unfun record in a certain way, and I think it was kind of reflecting the fact that when if you've just done a couple of things that are really focused on on kids. You're already kind of, the one thing you can't do is be a total drag. And I mean, I guess you could. That'd be an interesting experiment. Yeah, I mean, I think this record might have a little bit of pandemic magic tossed in, but it's well, we'll get there when we talk about it, I guess.
Awesome. Let's do it. So again, Book, the new record out from They Might Be Giants, talking through it today on KXFM. So the first two tracks, we're kind of going to go 2 tracks at a time here because there's 15 tracks on the album. The first one's called Synopsis for Latecomers, and then Moonbeam Rays, if you guys want to try to tackle those 2 songs.
Sure. Well, the first one is probably the closest thing to an assessment of this exact time and zeitgeist, because it's has a sort of apocalyptic quality that's not probably completely unrelated to all the crazy stuff that's going on. Although the song was written actually before the COVID pandemic, so it was just an amazing prophetic song in that regard. And then, John, do you want to talk about Moonbeam?
Oh, I mean, Moonbeam Rays is just, one of an endless number of like depressing breakup songs that I've written as I enter the third decade of my successful first marriage.
All right, that's the first 2 tracks on the record. Again, They Might Be Giants today on KXFM's Full Album Fridays with the new record Book. By the way, we haven't mentioned it's their 23rd record since 1986.
Too
right?
many.
That's just...
Too many. Yeah,
but this obviously isn't it. You're not done.
Take it back. Stop the presses.
We're going to go back and delete some of them to make it a more collection.
To make that number a little smaller. Yeah. All right. So this is one of the few, there's actually, I have written down, there's 5 singles already on an album that's technically not even out yet. So that's pretty impressive. Track 3 is one of those, called I Broke My Own Rule. And then track 4 could be a They Might Be Giants kids song because it's called Brontosaurus, but I'm guessing it's not.
It's not. It's too depressing. Kids are interested in sadness, but we don't want to create problems mainly for the parents. I think the kids are okay with dark subjects, but the parents don't allow them in the house. And the first song is called I Broke My Own Rule, which is the only thing I have to say about this is, aside from what's kind of clear in the lyrics, is that it uses this rhythm that is almost impossible for me to even play live. It's this weird stream of dotted quarter notes that I have a hard time singing and playing myself. So I hope it's easier to listen to than it is to play.
All right, let's keep going through the record Book. They Might Be Giants, again, on Full Album Fridays. Track 5 is called Lord Snow Done, spelled slightly differently than the Game of Thrones character. Track 6 is called If Day for Winnipeg. Is that correct?
Wait, there is a Game of Thrones character named Lord Snowden? I didn't know that. I don't know anything about Game of Thrones. I've never seen it. I've walked in and seen like some gigantic monster like breaking people in half, and that was exciting. But
you are kidding, right?
I'm totally not kidding.
Neither of us. I know this is like impossible. We neither one of us has watched Game of Thrones.
Really? You're one letter off from perhaps the most popular character in the whole show.
The thing is, there's two things going on. There are 3 things.
I've typed in Lord Snowden, and the first thing that comes up is the British aristocrat Lord Snowdon. So
yes. I see.
My Google doesn't seem to appreciate the importance.
There's a
that's because it knows who it's dealing with. Your Google, it's not giving you the results of someone else.
I feel terrible that in the first real book for adults that we've been involved in, there's a typographical error of this magnitude. The actual subject of the song is Lord Snowdon with an O, but in the book, although not in the CD or on the vinyl copy of it, it's spelled with an E, like the guy who's in Russia right now. I have to admit, the problem probably starts with me, but I think I literally was reading the book about Princess Margaret, the 99 Glimpses of Princess Margaret, which is about Princess Margaret and her husband, Lord Snowdon, who is, he plays into the crown. We can't get away from it. This peak television, it surrounds us. It's got us surrounded. That's the Snowdon that the song is about. It's about an English photographer from the 60s, 70s, who had this kind of alcoholic life with his, first wife, Princess Margaret, from the British royal family.
And John Linnell, you want to tell us about track 6?
Actually, that would be a Flansburgh track, so I will let him.
Okay.
John, I don't know. I think of it as a straight up collabo.
Okay. All right.
But John gave me a bunch of these crazy sounds and sort of like a chord sequence. I mean, I don't know if some of it might be MIDI and some was like MIDI, so I actually reassigned the sounds or created the sounds. I don't know if there was reference material, and then some of it was printed, because I think there was like some really, I mean, it wasn't microtonal, but I guess it was just kind of through was it through like
probably through
a ring mod,
a ring modulator, yeah, which creates all these Western pitches. So yeah, it's a bunch of crazy sounds that I sent up to Flans, and then he wrote the song.
Yeah, and the song is also has like a historical reference in it, which is in like the middle of World War II, in the city of Winnipeg in Canada, they had this kind of a war bonds effort where they pretended they basically did like the 1940 something version of cosplay, where it was like if the Nazis won, what life would be like. And, there are these photographs of people in Nazi uniforms, and it just seems like a very strange impulse. But it's really, it's a real doomsday kind of song, and it's sort of about just feeling nervous about everything. And this is just a song for these days.
Okay. All right. Again, the record is Book from They Might Be Giants, and there is a 144-page coffee table book, if you will, that accompanies this album that you'll definitely want to pick up. Track 7 is called I Can't Remember the Dream. Track 8 is Drown the Clown. And we'll start with track 7 because that's the one that has the very trippy dream state music video associated with it, if you would please enlighten us a bit about.
Sure. Well, the song is, the lyric is actually one of the more straightforward ones, I think, just very much explaining a situation that some of us are familiar with. But it, and then it also employs a kind of probably somewhat familiar sounding rhythm track that's kind of in the tradition of songs like Louie Louie and Sweet Jane and things like that, where there's a kind of a, rhythmic guitar part. And although I want to point out, it is neither of those songs, in spite of what people think.
You just prevented a bunch of lawsuits by throwing that sentence in there.
It's that easy to prevent lawsuits, then yes, just saying that it isn't the song. No, I think I should point out Louie Louie, the third chord, people don't know this, but the third chord is a minor chord in Louie Louie, not a major chord. That's very important.
This is the second time today that I've heard somebody talking about how the 5 chord is a minor in Louie Louie. I've never.
It's important. People get it wrong, and they need to be correct.
Huh.
Okay, so that's that one, and then "Drown the Clown" was actually written after the lockdown, so that one is one of the late entries for this project. And we had a recording session after we hadn't seen one another in months after the tour that we were starting got canceled, and so we had to all show up and get our noses swabbed to go into the studio to record a bunch of these tracks. And I Drown the Clown was kind of the maybe the last song that was written. for the album, and it's basically that on the surface it's about that fairground attraction where there's an annoying person perched over a pool of water, and you're supposed to throw balls at a target and make him fall in, and typically he's saying incredibly insulting things. And again, that felt somehow like the situation that we find ourselves in politics and in the world today. So so that was a sort of that was more or less of the inspiration.
Is there something you want viewers to take away from the music video for I Can't Remember the Dream, or is it entirely up to audience interpretation?
Well, I think the video it has kind of a storyline to it, but it is very hard to. It's just a kind of a dreamscape. The director of the video is this fellow Alex Italics, who's done a bunch of stuff with us. The very first thing he did, actually, he just entered a video contest that we had like 10 years ago or so, and he did this extremely stylish video, and then we've been working with him ever since. He's a really interesting guy, and the video was sort of made under duress. It was only like 2 weeks out from when the song was dropping, and our publicist was kind of reminding us that we needed to have assets. They always use the word assets to make it sound, I don't know what the other word would be. But they needed something to present that said, like, this is actually real and true beyond just the song. And I was doing, it was at that peak moment in vaccine bliss where I had traveled out to Los Angeles and was meeting my in-laws for the first time in like a year. And so I was in Los Angeles, and he's an LA person. So we met up and kind of ran down a bunch of crazy scenarios. And then he just went away and cooked up this whole thing. He's a lovely guy, and it's really interesting working with people like him. He has a very dysmorphic notion of the importance of the history of They Might Be Giants in rock video. And I mean, it's sort of reflected in the video for I Can't Remember the Dream, which has all these odd references to our previous videos. So it's very odd in that sense too.
All right. Again, KXFM's Full Album Fridays today with They Might Be Giants talking about their 23rd record, Book, and we're on to track 9. So we've got 2 in a row again. Darling, The Dose, and I Lost Thursday, which is another single from the album.
So what do we... Darling, The Dose is another one of the latecomers. So it arrived in December as we were getting together to finish the record. And there were others. It actually sort of bumped out other songs that we were working on. I'm just looking at this lyric sheet and seeing Lord Snowden spelled wrong again. It's just killing me. But Darling, The Dose is it really is about the sort of the claustrophobia of the song is based around that expression. It's not the poison, it's the dose. And so it's really kind of about just being trapped with someone. I guess it's really, maybe it's sort of like a what is that play? It's just a claustrophobic song. It's a vibe as much as anything else.
All right, and who wants to take I Lost Thursday?
I Lost.
Yeah, I guess he asked me to write a bunch of bass parts, and this is also like we're working very remotely. Nobody's leaving their house, so I sent John. I think they were just MIDI files of bass parts, right?
Yeah. Well, no, there was also like a clav, like what seemed like a clav part, or something like that, or just like a electric piano keyboard kind of thing. Okay. And so that whole track was done that whole thing was put together remotely. Like it's all it was all done, homebrew. Like it wasn't actually done in a recording studio. It wasn't even mixed in a recording studio. So we have no one to blame but ourselves for that one. And that really is like a pretty straight up pandemic expression. I mean, it's just about like days blurring into one another. And I can't, we've really had pretty organized lives for a really long time. I mean, I think if anything, our sort of life complaint has been like, we haven't had enough time to just kind of space out and have a free afternoon. And then with COVID, it's like, be careful what you wish for, because you might just be staring out the window for a year. So that's kind of what that one's dealing with.
All right, we've got a few tracks left here. Again, Book from They Might Be Giants today on Full Album Fridays. And we come across a couple more singles buried late in the album, which I know you guys do from time to time. So tell us about Part of You Wants to Believe Me and Super Cool. Well, and maybe you can touch on the selection of singles and how they end up being singles.
I think we think of this as our thriller album, really, that we're generating. Just the whole album is singles.
It's in the way that I Like Fun was our Off the Wall.
I think people are picking up on that pretty clearly. Well, I should say one thing about Part of You Wants to Believe Me, because I can never talk enough about this topic. Is that I used a weird tuning on the whole track is tuned with the major thirds tuned down to be more. It's used this system called just intonation. The idea is that you can distort the hell out of a keyboard, and if the notes are retuned to these exact tunings, it has a completely different and very pure sound. So we not only retune the keyboard, but also the guitar and the vocals and everything. And I don't know if this experiment worked exactly. It still sounds a little weird to me, but if for the people who have really good pitch, the thirds and the sixths are all slightly flat to make this happen. And then the lyrics are just about that weird expression, that the idea that you compartmentalize somebody and that part of them has one feeling and another part has another, is just like an oddball idea. And then Super Cool is by John Flansburgh.
Yeah. Super Cool is it's kind of a sentimental song. It's really about falling in love and then kind of going back to the place that you fell in love. And I guess sort of more specifically, one of the things that I think, happens to people is that, when they're falling in love, so they find themselves doing things that they normally would never do, except in the circumstance of falling in love. And, how much those experiences kind of, those unique experiences kind of fold into one another. And it's also kind of I'm just sort of experimenting with a couple of different, very disparate musical styles. There's like this kind of one chord thing in the breaks that in a way it's almost just like a hat tip to almost like a Beatle-esque version of Exotica. I don't even think it's based on anything. It's not based on any scale or musical impulse that's authentic. It's just almost like it's about as authentic as the movie Help. And then the actual rhythms of the bulk.
Not as racist, I think.
Right. We took the racism part out of the movie Help, and all we were left with was this strange pastiche of a pastiche. And then the actual meat of the song is this kind of vague Latin thing. Although it's not so vague, because it does the kind of minor major thing that a lot of Latin songs do very successfully. So I think I was kind of taking a bit of that approach and pulling it into our universe, and that's a pretty unusual terrain for us. But I think it came out really nice, and the band sounds really great on it. We work with these great players. I was just talking about it yesterday, and I realized that we rarely ever talk about our band, but our drummer Marty Beller, he's been in the band for 20-something years. I call him the new guy. And Danny Weinkauf and Dan Miller are these magnificent guys that really allow us to do a lot of things much more successfully than we could probably do on our own, and have really good ideas of their own that they really freely bring to what we're doing. And I think it's sort of, they're the kind of the nice answer to the question of like, when you hire a band, do you hire players who are worse than you, as good as you, or better than you? And I feel like we kind of made the right choice in hiring people who are, better players than we are. And it's a challenge, it's like, just from a personal point of view, it's like, it's Danny Weinkauf, our bass player, has an encyclopedic knowledge of our songs, and is often like kind of gently correcting us as we are saying like, oh no, I think that's a minor chord, right? It's like, no, it's definitely major. So it's nice in our declining years to have someone around who can help us so much.
All right, we've only got a few tracks left from They Might Be Giants, John Flansburgh and John Linnell talking us through the new album Book. So there's 3 tracks. I don't know if you want to do them all or or just talk about them briefly one by one. But
let's not.
Do them all.
Well, they're all kind of their individual. They can stand on their own. Linnell, talk about Wait, actually, yeah, no, because that was another very late on the docket. In December we had this sort of speed round where we actually had 2 studios going at the same time, with Pat Dillett mixing in one room and Tom. What's Tom's last name? Thom. The engineer. Yeah. Tom. I call him Tom too. Yes.
Yeah, I do. Wait, actually, yes, yeah, no was kind of in a way like a category of song that we occasionally pull out, which is where we come up with just the music and come in and record it, and we don't have the lyrics at all prepared. And so we just recorded a track with a melody and chords and, gave it to our guys. And I should add to what John was saying, like the amazing thing about our guys is that this isn't an example of this, but we throw them stuff sometimes that doesn't really make sense or is hard to justify musically. Sometimes the ideas are just outside and weird, but they always have opinions about it. They're always like, no, it should be this instead of that. And it's like, but how do you even know what this is? And I mean, that's how long we've been working with these guys, is that they have a really good intuitive sense of where a thing should go. And they're right, we agree with those ideas. So Wait, actually, yeah, no was completed at home after we had our studio session, like some of the other tracks that we've done in the past, which you'd think would be a bad idea, and maybe sometimes it is. This one actually worked out, and I also managed to get our trumpet player, who was in Newport, Rhode Island at the time, to remotely just make up a trumpet part. I sent him the completed track that we'd recorded, and he just played over the top of it. I gave him a couple of notes, but he pretty much made up the part and sent it back, and then we grafted that onto the recording. And
cool.
And the lyrics came last.
So I don't want people to get the idea that like those guys are just like doing everything.
John and I are artists, I should point out, and we are sensitive and have lots of important artistic feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I think the really the nice balancing act is like, I think about the last session we just did, where like basically I felt like I gave them no options at all on one of the tracks. It was just like, this is what you're going to play. Enjoy yourself, and so Yeah, have fun with this one. So it kind of goes. I mean, I'm also thinking about like the guys in the band listening to this and thinking, are they just gonna be like, these guys are such liars? But no, it's
we'll do a show with just them next,
please,
and they can talk about you guys.
I think they would celebrate that. But yeah, it's a really it's a very plastic kind of flexible setup. The penultimate song on the album is "Quit the Circus," and it's kind of it's not really an autobiographical song, but I think anybody who's been sort of trapped in a family could kind of understand this song. And I think one of the things about writing songs is that you tend to like really amplify a lot of the lyrical, if you're drawing from something personal, you're not just going to kind of mumble your way through it. You're going to kind of heighten it. And that's sort of the situation with like Quit the Circus, is that it's like, it's really about a very extreme kind of claustrophobia that I guess all these songs for me are about claustrophobia. But yeah, that one's pretty dire. I mean, I'm just like staring at these lyrics and just thinking, man, I'm really saving a lot of money on therapy.
Right. Is this guy? Are you okay, man?
Yeah.
I actually, when you asked about the theme of the album, I realized like we do have a song called "Quit the Circus," another song called "Drown the Clown," and in the song "Brontosaurus," there is a "Joining the Circus" lyric. So I don't know. It was some kind of. I mean, the weird thing is, John and I wrote these lyrics independent of one another, and then brought them together. And we're like, oh, look,
that is interesting.
Oh, I have to. This. I don't mean to break news on this show, but the actual song "Moonbeam Rays" I started writing before the album, our previous album, "I Like Fun," and the opening line of the song is "By the time you hear this," and like one of the first sessions of the album, "I Like Fun," John brought in a song called "By the Time You Get This Note," I think, and
wow,
and I was just like, oh man. Like, just, which is
me off before the fact. Stop that.
So, I just basically kind of hit pause on that one because I was just like, I can't put this song on the. For a little while, I kind of flailed around it trying to write an alternate lyric, and then I was just like, it's not as good. Yeah, so I just thought I could just wait.
You just got to go. I think we should. The next album, all the songs should have the same title, but they should all be different.
Right.
Just own it. Embrace
it.
24 records in, you can pretty much try anything at this point.
Totally.
Right. QAnon. It's true. Admit it.
All right, so what about the last track, Less Than One, and why does it close out the record?
I don't know why it closes out the record. I think I feel like that album is an extended like Stephen Wright bit in my mind. But
which album? This album?
Yeah.
You're saying
we're talking about our album.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know, but you were saying that. I'm sorry. I'm glad no one's left listening.
I'm not touching 1 second of this.
Gold.
The whole thing will air as recorded.
Okay. So John, help me out. Just explain the Stephen Wright part.
It's those kinds of jokes where you just say like, I tried to throw in my trash cans and they wouldn't take them. Just like that kind of humor. It's
like Airplane style humor. The movie Airplane.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Airplane exactly. I think it's more like this sad sack thing of like, I got spot remover and sprayed it on my dog and now he's gone. Those jokes.
Yeah.
So I don't think Less Than One is particularly funny, but it's sort of in that world, a little bit, I guess. I sometimes struggle with writing lyrics, and I really enjoy writing music, but I feel like I want to say something new and original each time. And as John has pointed out, we really we've exhausted a lot of topics, so sometimes you really have to just improvise and jam, and that's
or
what
microdose. I think that's really
or
that's what's next.
Even just macrodose.
Yeah. 2022.
Macrodose. Let's do it. I mean, it's a curious one to end on, because it's in some ways the first track, Synopsis for Latecomers, is like a big, like explosive, not typical of us kind of track, and then I think Less Than One is sort of a question mark as well. But I think they're all like elliptical in one way or another.
Well, does that close it? Did we do it?
Yeah, close the lid.
Man, you gotta like do some deep fake replacements of some of our raps. I think,
John, like, you're roboting pretty hard on this audio.
That's how I talk. That's just my voice.
I've got him loud and clear. Don't worry.
Okay.
He didn't robot
good
on my end. Yeah. That was awesome, you guys. Thank you so much. And I think the fact that we need to deep fake some of the audio just kind of sheds a little extra light on your guys' mindset during this past time period and how these songs came to be in the first place. This was almost a reflection of the record in general.
Yeah.
So I think it's awesome, and I really appreciate you doing it.
Full Album Fridays is a production of KXFM in Laguna Beach, California. Interviewing done by me, Tyler Russell. Booking and promotion done by Alyssa Hayek. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week on Full Album Fridays.